Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Right Network tonight. Your host, Brian Smith and
Kerry Smith.
Giving you all the late-breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all. Working with the audio here, trying to get it just right. Just right.
That sounds a little bit less than just right.
That's almost there. Yes.
All right.
Exposing the fake news.
Somebody put the volume on.
Okay.
All the way up.
All right.
Sorry about that, folks. That might have gotten into your ear there a little bit.
So, flying by the seat of our pants today, a little bit late, but we got it going on. At least you got a show tonight, and it's live. So
yeah.
Anything can happen when it's live.
That's what happens when it's live.
Right.
And I'm curious if anybody can hear us. So I will double check the comments section.
Excellent. And again, this is New Right Network tonight. We give you all the breaking news of the day, wrap it all up, making sense of it, exposing the fake news and giving you the real news, and probably about the greatest commentary you're going to find anywhere. Kerry and I have been talking back and forth all day today about the goings-ons of what's going-ons. I've been digging into some things, and I've got a take on this Julian Assange thing that I haven't heard anybody. There's been hints. There was a little bit of a hint on Rush Limbaugh today. A caller called in, and he almost connected some of the dots, but I'm just I'm beside myself with what's happened with the Julian Assange ordeal. So we're definitely going to talk about that. We're probably going to hit that first thing. But
whoops, sorry about that.
Yep. All right, good. Well,
I guess there's volume. Okay.
So if you didn't know, Julian Assange was arrested today by the UK police, and out
of the Ecuadorian
embassy,
and they allowed him in. Now, legally, international law would not allow the British police to go into the embassy because it's considered Ecuadorian soil.
However, they have a new president.
Well, and then they invited him. They said, come on in and get this guy out of here because we are so sick of him. Man, I'll tell you what, there is mixed opinions on it. The initial reaction amongst our circle of friends is this is a huge outrage. This is an affront on journalism. But then there's people who said, now, wait a minute, let's look at these charges that the indictments from the United States are putting on there. And then there's my opinion on the whole thing, and we will get to that.
Trump news. We've got a couple of things in the Trump news today. Trump is doing some great things. And the Spygate thing is over. It's done. I know. I understand. It's done. But it's in the show notes because Spygate is Julian Assange.
Interesting.
And there's a huge connection there. And the powers that be and the people that want him, you won't be shocked, but you'll be like, I knew they wanted him.
Yes.
So we'll see how that plays out. And I'm in full support today. If you can see, I've got my wiki. I'll stand up for you guys. I got my WikiLeaks shirt on that I purchased during the campaign in support of WikiLeaks and real news, if you will. And that's the big thing. Speaking about WikiLeaks, hit it first and hit it hard. WikiLeaks is anti-globalist. They are Julian Assange is a nationalist in his country, his home country of Australia. He just like we are nationalists here in America. Julian Assange does not like Donald Trump. Never has. Matter of fact, whenever he was asked about why don't you spill the beans on Donald Trump, he would refer to everybody and say, it's all out on the net. You know he's been married, divorced a handful of times. You know he's cheated. You know he's this.
That actually sounds like support. It sounds like he's supporting Donald Trump. Like, I have no dirt on him. I certainly wouldn't share it with you. You know, that's what it kind of makes it sound like.
I guess, but he literally says he's an open book, and you can pretty much find anything you need on him. And real quick, just to touch on two major WikiLeaks things that we ran with during the campaign. The John Podesta emails. It was a phishing scam. John Podesta went and changed his password, replying back to the hacker, yeah, please change my password. This is my old one. This is my new one.
Gosh, that's such a boomer thing to do.
Right. And so that hacker would then go to WikiLeaks and say, here's this stuff, Pizzagate, whatever. Here's this stuff. How much is it worth? And then WikiLeaks would pay that hacker.
That's interesting.
And then we've got
interesting.
Seth Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rich downloaded the information and wanted to rat out on Hillary Clinton because he was a Bernie Sanders supporter and he didn't like what had happened to Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Information.
He wanted to get revenge on the DNC. He did. The DNC decided, oh no, we are in the business of revenge.
Yes.
And conveniently, in the corrupt neighborhood of D.C., conveniently, wound up a little bit cold one night.
And kind of a side note, but related, the Clinton-sided, when you're Clinton-sided or you're Clinton knocked off, you get whacked off by the Clintons.
Right. Clinton side. Yeah, that's instead of suicide, it's a Clinton side. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
This was just made recent news the past couple of days. The lawyer for the Clintons, back in the day, that killed himself while they were in office. Apparently,
Gary Byrne talked much about that. Was that the guy with the that wasn't the lawyer, was it?
Yeah, that was the lawyer that she'd screamed and yelled at.
And really accosted him on a daily basis. Right. And then he ended up having to kill himself with an inoperable weapon.
The investigation or the whole lookings on into his death in the reports that have now been made public, they said that she may have had caused his suicide.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it's documented, like, in the reports.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that, at minimum, she drove him to kill himself.
Right.
At minimum. But there's some conspiracy theorists out there who believe that he was offed. But I digress.
So back to what's going on with Assange. This is a connection that goes back all the way to 2010, where Mike Manning, what was Manning's name?
Well, it was Bradley Manning, but we're not allowed to say that anymore.
What?
Because that's called dead naming.
Oh.
Have you never heard of dead?
No.
I actually was doing it on Twitter, not knowing that had been changed to a hard and fast criminal offense.
I can't say Bruce Jenner?
Oh.
Whoa!
Dude, right now, whatever we're on live is now over.
Oh, no.
So you're probably listening to us the next day because this is no longer live. This has been shut down.
Okay,
no,
so
you can't dead name.
Okay, so Manning.
Chelsea, yeah.
Chelsea Manning, in the military, didn't like what was going on. Remember Abu Ghraib and the tortures and the fake stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, folks. If what happened back in Abu Ghraib, if that's considered torture, making fun of and
didn't they play like Britney Spears songs or something? Some sort of music really loud.
But these were hardcore.
That is kind of torture, though.
Yeah, but these were hardcore terrorists. I don't want to get too far off subject. Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning.
Oh my gosh, you are so dumb.
Stole information and sold it to WikiLeaks because that's what WikiLeaks does.
Yeah, and the Edward Snowden thing, I didn't get any support on this when I put this out to my friends. I said, look, I think what Edward Snowden did is good for America. I think that he should be considered a real bona fide whistleblower. I feel like what Chelsea Manning did was cross the line into, hey, this looks a little anti-American. This doesn't look like real whistleblower stuff. This looks like crimes that should not be excused had occurred. and it was done almost despite America. So that's why I have not great feelings about
and then
her.
Chelsea completely let off the hook by the Obama administration.
Oh, totally.
Just let go.
100%. What do they call that?
Pardon.
Sorry, 100% pardon. She's done with that.
Now, WikiLeaks in a statement today made the comment that the Trump administration rearrest Chelsea, attempting to squeeze more information out of her. And she continued to respond. I stand by my statement that I've made before. I sold the information to WikiLeaks. Be done.
Yeah, the thing about a pardon is she could say that any part of the thing she was pardoned for, she's 100% guilty of, and it could be written as a crime that everybody could agree with is a crime. And once you pardon it, it doesn't matter. It's over. So
right. So let's go back to the beginning of this morning. See,
woke up.
We're in a different time zone here than the UK. I believe they're about
so this has been like
8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours? 12.
Wait, no. You're right.
Italy's almost.
I was thinking 12 because they're on the Mason-Dixon line.
South of the Mississippi.
What do they call that? No. What's that line called? The not the international date line. That's 180 degrees the other side of the world.
Oh, right.
The line.
He's talking about the Guam line.
We are so bad.
Oh, boy.
This is the worst show ever. So it's the 0 hour type thing. You know, it's like all time zones are supposed to go off of that line that goes through Great Britain. So anyway. So whatever Eastern time is, I think it's like -8, 6, 7, something like that.
Okay,
whatever.
So this happened while we was sleeping here in America. So we woke up to.
It didn't. I woke up pretty early, so it felt like it was just happening when I saw it.
Right. So this is what happened over in Britain today, early this morning. And this is Assange being walked out.
Now he's actually being dragged out.
Yeah. And you see the magazine right there in his hand? He's holding the magazine in his hand. That's very important.
A magazine like Vogue?
No, it's very important. It has to do with just him making his statement as he's walking out.
Like he was literally resisting. They had to drag him out. Now, for a long time, he felt like he was going to get assassinated by the state. Great Britain, the second he showed his face. Like, he wouldn't even stick his head out the window. He felt like he was going to be assassinated. And it makes sense if you think of the fact that he's publishing information that the most powerful organizations that civilization has ever produced would kill people over.
Right. I mean, we're talking about the real powers that be. You know, I mean, when you joke about, the one world order or new world order or the powers of
if you're a tinfoil hat type guy, what's that Mel Gibson movie, Conspiracy, where you're like totally freaked out? This would be worst case scenario for you, to be drug out into public like that.
Right, and I'm pulling up the screenshot of, here's the magazine that he was holding. This is Gore de Vidal and
History of National Security State. Interesting.
Includes Vidal on America. So so the Obama administration had put out that they wanted Julian Assange. They wanted him. Mm-hmm. They wanted him for these crimes. They're claiming that he worked with Chelsea Manning, and it was a coordinated effort, and that he should go to
now.
Go to
wait
prison.
a minute. How does Chelsea Manning get a?
I know it doesn't make sense.
No, the real thing is Edward Snowden. That's the real. What Edward Snowden did was slap the hell out of the Obama administration.
Correct.
Because they wanted to do all this surveillance on every single human being on Earth, specifically and concentrating on American citizens. And this was actually spoken about inadvertently by some of his allies in Congress.
Correct.
And so what they wanted to do, I think it was in Utah. It was somewhere out west. They were going to construct this like something that makes the Pentagon look like an outhouse. And they were going to fill it from floor to ceiling, wall to wall with servers. And it was going to record every single keystroke you do, including the backspace.
Right.
And it was going to record everything that you do. They were probably going to put cameras everywhere. And, of course, this is like the stuff of total wacko conspiracy theorists, right? And people talked about this is where we're going. And people like you and I are like, oh, yeah, sure, I guess it's theoretically possible. And then Edward Snowden came out and said, no, all that and more and worse. Worst case scenario, here's all the proof of it. He puts it out there, and it totally puts an end to all of what Obama was trying to do.
Right. And so people are now claiming that this is Trump's administration. WikiLeaks complaining all day that this is Trump and Trump wants Julian Assange. Trump's administration wants Julian Assange.
And he hasn't said anything about it.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay. What we know about Donald Trump is he's a nationalist.
And I feel like he's libertarian.
Correct. And what we know about Julian Assange is he's a nationalist. What he has done is he's released information along with it's not just him that let this information out either. They listed – I'll show you this one. They listed all these writers. These are all the writers who also released the same documents. WikiLeaks co-published the Afghan and the Iraqi files in 2010 with a range of media organizations, co-publishers. You've got Espresso, The Guardian, New York Times, Der Spiegel, the Bureau of Investigative Journalism,
so you're
Channel
saying
4.
That he hasn't scooped anything. Everybody else scooped him.
Well, no. They did it. They probably simultaneously. I mean,
okay.
But it's just the fact that he had the information, and once that information was out there, all these other outlets then repeated the information. Damn it! I was going to get that clip from CNN. Remember when I think it was Cuomo said that we're the only ones that can look at this.
This is classified material, so you aren't allowed to see it. But we can see it, and we can look at it, and we can figure out what you're allowed to see, and we can report it. But you can't see this. You can't see this.
We'll tell you what's in the book.
He's a complete moron. As soon as it's published, it's public.
Right.
You can't close Pandora's box.
So you're going to have to go. The administration would have to go after The Guardian, New York Times, L.A. Times, Der Spiegel, Espresso. I just go after everybody that published the same documents that Assange published.
Can we talk about the philosophy of journalism and secret information? Can we talk about that a second?
Sure.
Freedom of press allows you to print whatever you get your hands on.
Right.
What you're not allowed to do is to steal information. Okay, that's the only thing you're not allowed to do. And you're also not allowed to say, hey, Brian, I'm trying to get a scoop here. I need a whopper.
Yeah, okay.
And I know that you work for the FBI.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so you have all kinds of top secret security clearances. So I'll tell you what. I'm not saying to do it, you do your thing. But here's a duffel bag right here. That would be illegal too, because that would be basically hiring somebody to do it. It's just like a wife hiring a hitman to kill the husband. Right. The wife gets busted for that. So journalists are not allowed to ask somebody to break the law in order to get a scoop or information to print. And they're also not allowed to do it themselves, which brings us to before we get to what that brings us to, if Bradley Manning, excuse me, Chelsea Manning, I'm doing it now too.
Whoa.
If Chelsea Manning or Edward Snowden steals information and gives it to a journalist, that journalist is protected by the First Amendment, especially considering that we assume that, if correct, he didn't pay for it or he didn't ask for anybody to break the law to get it.
Now, somebody asked us in our private message meetup group, they asked me or they just threw out the question, if you had this kind of information in your hands that was damning, that the government was spying on you, that all this kind of crazy, What would you do with it?
And that brings us to the whistleblower status thing. If you work in an area in the government where what you do and what you know is top secret, you obviously are not allowed to mishandle that. You're not allowed to give it to anybody or to talk about it or anything like that. However, whistleblower status allows for a person who sees your own government or somebody high up in government breaking the law.
Right.
They get it. There's a whistleblower status allows them to be able to blow the whistle on those people.
Well, you could, but under the Obama administration, if you were a whistleblower, if they didn't like it, you could be in a lot of trouble.
Right, because they don't like the Constitution and they don't like freedom. And they also, most importantly, the Democrat Party, especially your Marxists, is a requirement for them to break the law in order to get to the ends, and the ends justifies the means. And so breaking the law is obviously part and parcel of everything that they do. And so whistleblowers, not good.
So what I would do is I would go to a trusted congressman or woman, namely I'd probably go to Jim Jordan and say, hey,
you know what he would say? He would say, why don't you go to Shabbat?
Why don't you take it to it? Well, maybe I guess I could.
He would tell you to go to Shabbat. He'd be like, you live in Cincinnati? Why don't you call Steve Shabbat?
I don't know. I don't know.
I trust Steve Shabbat.
But do you trust him to get it to the right people?
Now that's a different story.
Because I don't know what I just know Jim Jordan is going after these people, and if he had evidence in his hand, him and Meadows, it's just an unstoppable tag team.
Shabbat would have real skin in the game as far as protecting you. You're his constituent.
True.
If he were to throw one of his own constituents under the bus and that were to go public, he's politically toast.
Right.
Because everybody in Cincinnati would be like, oh, he did that to who? What? Where? So Jim Jordan is like, his motive for protecting you would be that he really wants to get to the bottom of this. Whereas Shabbat is also and I think he would go along with it. He'd be fine.
Okay. So this is Julian Assange's lawyer, Jen Robinson, and somebody told me, said this is her lawyer. I looked it up, and it turns out it really is his lawyer. And she tweeted out early this morning, and here's what she had to say about the whole thing. Just confirmed Assange has been arrested not just for breaching of bail conditions, but also in relation to a U.S. extradition request from #Assange. The U.S. warrant was issued in December 2017 and is for conspiring with Chelsea Manning in early 2010.
Okay, you want me to explain this one?
I guess Chelsea Manning's handle on Twitter is @XY Chelsea.
Yeah, I don't know what the XY stands for, but okay.
Man, woman, XY.
No, X is actually I don't even remember. XX is a woman and XY.
They're using
the chromosomes or whatever.
Correct. Okay.
I'm no biologist, so any of you biologists out there are probably screaming at the TV screen right now. But okay, so let me explain this conspiracy thing and the extradition and the attempt of the United States government to go after Chelsea Manning. They're not saying that you printed secret stuff of ours, we're going after you, because that would be protected under the First Amendment, and that would be very hypocritical to go after somebody even though he's not an American citizen. It would just be hypocritical for the American government to go after somebody who would normally be protected under the First Amendment, assuming that they were an American citizen. He's not, but just by principle, okay? What they're saying is that he worked with Chelsea Manning to teach her how to break into the necessary servers, hack the U.S. government in order to, and maybe even did it themselves with the help of Chelsea Manning, which would be illegal. And there are people on Twitter. I actually retweeted somebody yesterday who's saying, whoa, it was a journalist. It was a blue check journalist. I don't remember any time in journalism school learning how to hack into the government computers. And there was a back and forth, which included James O'Keefe. Some other people were involved in it. I think maybe even Ali might have even chimed in on it. The point is that that's true. If you were to hack into the government servers in order to get a story to print that would be highly, highly illegal. But based on everything I've heard from Julian himself in his interviews, I don't see that as part of his character. And I think he would know that that would be so unethical that he wouldn't do that.
Right.
I think he's just voluntarily given it. I think Chelsea Manning had access to information, and she was so excited about what Edward Snowden had done that she wanted in on the action.
Well, not only that, but you could get paid for it.
And get paid for it. Now, obviously, nobody envies what happened with Edward Snowden. I don't think he's been on U.S. soil since. He's
still in Russia?
Probably still in Russia. The whole thing is just so messed up. I certainly wouldn't want to be in his shoes, and I would think that I would feel like I had been betrayed by my own country thanks to the deep state. Now, here's where my opinion comes in, because I do agree that if Julian Assange had broken into or helped somebody break into government servers, that would be highly illegal. He should be arrested for that, whatever. And Mark Levin said so much minutes before this show started. He said, let me tell you something about Julian Assange. Everybody's talking about what kind of a great journalism, what a hero he is, but he's not. And he went on and on about how he broke in. Listen, this is his word versus their word. He's been accused of raping a woman. And there's people who are supporters of him, and he vehemently denies it and says, where did this come from? These are charges that are stemming from governments that hate me.
Right.
All right. I don't know. That's he said, she said. I don't trust our deep state.
No. And
period.
Not only do I not trust our deep state, but I know for a fact the UK, France, Germany, Ecuador, Spain, all of them. They're worse than we are.
Right. I don't trust our deep state. Look what our deep state did to our own system of transfer of power between two heads of state, the president of the United States. They decided, you know what? We don't like what the people have done.
You 50, 60 million people in America?
62 million.
Yeah, 62 million people in America? Screw you.
Right.
I'm Peter Strzok, and I'm flipping this thing.
And yeah, and I got a bunch of people on my side working with me in the deep state who are going to support me. They're going to help me. They're on the same team. They're going to be working hard to make a coup d'etat happen. I mean, how did they think this was going to end? And now they want us to believe that stuff that was just simply printed by Julian Assange, allegedly from people who had access to the information, now they're going to tell me, oh, well, Carrie, what you don't know is that it was Julian Assange himself that hacked into these computers. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to need to see damn hard evidence.
Yeah, that's really difficult to do, especially if you're an outsider. And so now his people, there was an hour-long Q&A. There's an hour-long setup by WikiLeaks and the senior editors, and they're now saying that Ecuador has illegally terminated Assange's political asylum in violation of international law. They're citing that the UN that because you're an asylum seeker in Ecuador, you fall under the UN jurisdiction.
Okay.
And that because just because you're Ecuador and you're the new president of Ecuador, you can't violate my asylum because it's protected by international law. And so the Ecuadorian threatened Assange over his efforts. Oh, this was the other thing. They're saying that Ecuador was now spying on Julian Assange inside his dwellings, if you will. And inside his dwellings, they were spying on him, on everything he did, people that he would have to come over to visit him. And here's one of the letters that was sent to him. Once again, I must write in regards to a new display of inappropriate behavior shown by you, which occurred Friday, 1st February 2019, during the visit of the afternoon. So apparently Assange, when he would have a meeting with his lawyer or a meeting with his doctor or meetings with anybody, he started to suspect that he was being spied upon by these individuals. And so if he had a meeting in a room, he would take a radio with him and turn it up a little too loud and then whisper with his lawyers so they couldn't hear him. He would be reprimanded for that. He got in trouble for that. He also got in trouble for turning a light towards a camera that obstructed the camera from viewing the room. So he's receiving all these letters of counseling, letters of reprimand or whatever from the Ecuadorian embassy telling him that he is now breaking their rules. And once again, we're saying we are not spying on you. That's not true. And so
they were certainly spying on him.
So WikiLeaks tweeted out, said Ecuador caught an espionage operation against refugee Julian Assange. One, spied on his legal and medical he was having an exam by a doctor, and they were spying on him. That's kind of gross. Stole legal notes during the middle of a court hearing against them. Secretly cooperated with the U.S. Now, I don't know anything about that. There's nothing been proven. This is all just accusations. And tried to extort him for €3 million. This comes out of Spain. There were some dirty deeds, some guys that the editor of WikiLeaks was in talks with, and he sat down with them and he went through the files, and there was thousands of files, thousands of pictures, hundreds of files and video of Julian Assange and meetings and his rooms and his bedrooms and his bathrooms, all this stuff. And these guys said to the editor, an editor even said, look, I'm in this picture right here. I was having a meeting with him. And the guy said, you know what? We've been offered €9 million for this. But I tell you what, I think €3 million's fair. €3 million's fair.
Here's the thing. I don't know much about Ecuador, and I don't know what kind of a banana republic that is. But this doesn't surprise me. I mean, do you remember the stories about people, service members going to Mexico? I had to be warned. I was stationed in Yuma, Arizona, which you can see Mexico from anywhere. Like on the one, it's border. I didn't realize how close the border was until I was checking Google Maps the other day. We're butted right up against the Colorado River, which is the border. There's a short section of the Colorado River, which is actually a border of Mexico and the United States. That's where Yuma is. Anyway, I was there. And so, we had a lot of – everybody visited and partied in Mexico. And we were all warned. We were like, you do realize that that's not in the jurisdiction of the United States, which means you're not in the jurisdiction of certain inalienable rights.
Right.
So yeah.
Under the
no surprise.
In working with the Spanish government, they caught these guys and put the kibosh on it and stopped the extortion. But with that being said, the reporters in this meeting were asking, they were playing devil's advocate and asking questions and said, doesn't that be a little bit ironic that you guys expose information about governments and now they're trying to expose about you? And he's just talking about human rights. You're like, no, that's just not proper. You shouldn't do that. And then they said, how long were you going to stay? It's been 7 years.
Okay.
7 years cooped up in a room, they call it a flat, like a one-room apartment.
It almost reminds me of when the Soviet Union walled off Berlin, West Berlin, from the rest of the world. A lot of people don't realize this, but East Germany completely surrounded Berlin. All of Berlin was in East Germany. There was this little tiny piece of Berlin that was a part of West Germany. And they walled it off with the Berlin Wall. You couldn't get in or out, so they had the airlift, and you had to figure out how to fly in and out of there. It was just a mess. And it sounds like he needed a way out of the Ecuadorian compound to go to Ecuador.
Right.
Not be stuck in there.
Yeah, the only way I can imagine getting out is maybe by a helicopter, but then you're in UK airspace.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to shoot it down? I would say that they wouldn't do that because then it would be killing the pilot, and that's obviously problematic.
And more evidence that it was, when I say being spied on, it was borderline. No, not borderline. It was over the line of becoming harassment. We've got our good friend Cassandra Fairbanks.
Yeah, she is practically his PR.
She took off and she went out there, and here's what she found in the middle of the night.
Hey, are you guys worried about being parked here for so long? Hi. I'm a journalist from Washington, D.C. I've already spoke to you guys twice before. You told me that you're not media, that you're not journalists. I'm trying to cover the covert operation against Julian Assange.
Now, for those of you listening to audio only, it is late at night. It's dark, middle of the night. She's got a flashlight shining it in the window of these people, and they're trying to cover themselves up and act like she's not even there.
Why wouldn't you have tinted windows?
You would think.
You guys are the third round of people, at least, that's been sitting in this car in the last 20 hours.
So in the last 20 hours, this is the third round of people sitting in this car.
The same car?
Yeah, that hasn't moved.
I would have taken the license plate number.
Can you please tell me how long you're planning to be out here? Are more people going to come take over for you after this? The Ecuadorian government has said that they might expel Julian Assange from the embassy. Are you waiting for that?
Good for her.
How come you guys are watching him but you don't want to be watched yourself? Why do the watchers not want to be watched? I would really like an answer to this.
So,
if they were smart, they would have cracked the window and said, "We're journalists. We're just trying to get the scoop. Get lost." Or hey, if you want to join us, I know why. Why are you here? You know, they could have done that, but the fact that they didn't have an answer is super suspicious, and we salute Cassandra Fairbanks for bringing that to everybody's attention.
So WikiLeaks also complaining more about the Ecuadorian new president, saying the new president Moreno, his credibility has fallen to 17% in 2 weeks before being hit by offshore scandal. And so they're just saying, they're complaining about the new guy that's running Ecuador, and he's corrupt, he's scandalous, and he's attempting to remove Julian Assange. For whatever reason, this situation went really bad, and it went globalist intervention. Mm-hmm. And here's where it turns the page. People in America have been wanting him.
Yeah.
Globalists around the world who don't like him want him for exposing, whether it be sex acts or child pornography or whatever the dirty deeds that you globalists do, the suppression of people, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, everything Hillary Clinton did that was on display that we knew was going on, he showed it to us in real time.
Right. He's
got to be the most wanted man in the world by globalists.
Yeah, it's just a shame that, there's people out there who are like, Jeff Sessions wanted him. Jeff Sessions said that he was going to make sure that he gets charged and all this. Well, Jeff Sessions also wanted to crack down on marijuana use. And Trump is just like, why are you going down that road?
It's the wrong road. Wrong road to go down.
Remember that point where Sessions was just like, I thought that more people would be on board with my war on drugs. And so the whole idea that because Jeff Sessions wanted to have him charged somehow means something to anything other than Jeff Sessions' allies, it just doesn't.
So I had a friend of mine show me a photo that WikiLeaks had tweeted out, and I complained. I said, okay, great for the photo, but can I get the link? Mm-hmm. And I never got a response. So I went to Twitter, and you can do this in Twitter. I went to Twitter. I typed in @WikiLeaks and then space Democrat senators, because that was in his tweet that he typed in.
Okay.
And it pulled up what I was looking for. I scrolled down a little bit, and I saw some more. This is Flashback Friday on Thursday. This right here, this is the beginning of what I'm about ready to expose to you, the globalists. This is Dianne Feinstein. This goes all the way back to December 2018, and she tweeted out, given the role of WikiLeaks in election interference efforts and reports of Paul Manafort visiting Julian Assange, we're calling on Secretary Pompeo to brief us on his recent meetings with the Ecuadorian officials. The public deserves answers on foreign interference in our election. And they wrote a letter and they typed it up. And so
what was the date on that? It looks like December of 2018.
So it was like
that wasn't that long ago.
Just past few months ago.
Okay.
So this is at the point, December 18, at the point where any common sense individual, and I'm not saying she is, she may have been briefed by a common sense person, a handler. Well, she did say, hey, we can't get this passed through Congress, the Green Deal. We can't get that passed. Come on, kids. I got something that will. So she might have a little common sense, but she's thinking, this whole Russia thing's falling apart.
Yeah.
This is the next step. So she's calling out Manafort. She's calling out Assange. She's calling on Pompeo.
So if they can vilify Julian Assange, anybody that they can show had met with him, they can also be shows being guilty by association.
Right. Now what you're looking at, WikiLeaks posted this up 28th of June 2018. So last summer, Democrat senators who demanded today that Julian Assange's asylum be revoked in violation of international law, remember them. Robert Menendez, the dirty, rotten Robert Menendez, Richard Durbin, Dick Durbin, if you will, Ed Markley, Christopher Coons, Jan Sheen, Mark Warner, Dianne Feinstein, Joe Manchin, Michael Bennett, and Richard Blumenthal. These are all Democrats. They want Assange for what they did in retribution. They want retribution for what WikiLeaks had done to their Mein Führer, Hillary Clinton, and the Democrat Party.
Yeah, and the thing is they're trying to kill the messenger. I mean, Seth Rich downloaded all that stuff. One of their own. Forget the fact that Seth Rich, somebody in the DNC, an IT guy, stuck a flash drive in the and this was reiterated by Rush Limbaugh today, that the download speed is unattainable over the internet. So whoever got the files that ended up what we all know as DNC leaks,
right, famously,
could not have happened through the internet, but rather on site with a physical flash drive.
Yeah, if I have, and I do, I upload our show, which is like 2 gig, something like that, 2, 3, sometimes 6 gigabyte show.
Yeah.
When I upload it to YouTube, it normally takes, probably about 10 minutes. It takes a little bit of time.
So you have to walk away and take a break.
I start doing other things.
Right,
yeah.
right.
That being said, my upload speed is 200 meg or 200.
It's much faster than most people.
200 up.
For sure. Sure.
Now, when I take that same file and I drop it to my external hard drive, I could probably sit there and count 90.
Really? It takes 90 seconds?
Maybe maybe a little bit. It goes.
I'm actually surprised that it takes that long.
Maybe. Well, I don't have the FireWire, and if you have that, it goes real fast on the Mac. But
so if you stuck a flash drive in, how long do you think it?
Yeah, a minute or 2, something like that.
All right. I thought it would be quicker.
Well over 10 minutes to get it up to out the internet.
Yeah, certainly. And so they know the forensic analysis of this or whatever. I don't know how it was found out, but it obviously is a solid enough forensic information that's out there that not only Rush Limbaugh, but Rush Limbaugh was just reading an article that somebody else wrote. So it's been proven that the download speed for the amount of information, the amount of gigabytes or whatever,
right,
and the time that it took for them to take this could only be done on site, and therefore it was an inside job, and it would have been the very thing that somebody like a Seth Rich would have been able to do.
Right, and so our good friend at Wayne Dupree, he put up an article referring back to Judge Napolitano. Assange is a publisher, and I consider him a hero once again. Unless he commissioned the actual spying, there's no crime. As stated below, he is simply a mouthpiece. He did not steal the material. That's got to be proven. I'm
not taking the deep state's word for this, folks. No. I'm not. If they come out and say, here is the proof that he definitely helped Chelsea Manning, or if Chelsea says, yeah, I wasn't able to do it myself and I got a lot of help from Julian, well, there you go.
Yeah, and now we're into the deep state. We're back into Spygate. Donald Trump tweeting out Spygate or spy games, time for answers. Folks, it really is time for answers. Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, all the guys, the crew, really doing a great job. I mean, I'm beside myself when it comes to William Barr. Oh, Attorney General Barr.
Well, okay. That just shows you how low the bar has been lowered. Pun intended, right? No, he is what we've all known our entire lives to be a government official. This is what happens. When you get pulled over, you get a ticket if you broke a law. If the cop saw you break a law, you're going to get a ticket. They're not going to say, hey, listen, saw you break that law, and maybe I didn't see it. Depends on if you have $100 on you right now. That's what we've been dealing with for not only 2 years, but a good chunk of the Obama administration. And William Barr is finally doing the kind of work that a government official did and we expect to do for as long as I remember. And excuse me, the bar's been lowered so low. It's just
so the Democrats are out of answers. I hope they didn't hear it on mine.
I'm sorry about that.
They're out of answers, and they're trying to turn the corner. They're trying to keep each other out of prison, and it's getting ridiculous by the moment. I retweeted to CNN Politics. I said, blah, ha, ha, quoting James Clapper. It's not about the spying on Trump, Kerry.
It's not.
It's about Russia. We need to go after Russia. And
wait a minute.
This was the video.
What kind of pivot is that? That's moving the goalposts.
Right, we don't have time for the video, but this is what he said. Former Director of National Intel, James Clapper, who is implicated in all of this stuff. It is stunning and scary that Attorney General William Barr would raise the spying allegations because, and they didn't add this, but in the video he says it's about Russia. We need to find out why, when. We need to punish Russia.
That's ridiculous. Go watch listen to Russia on Smith TV. It was one of our old podcasts from back in December 11th of 2016. We explain why, Russia spied on us, but that's what they do, and we do it to them, and there's nothing out of the ordinary here. And we explain that all. And so the idea that they're trying to move the goalpost back to Russia, this has already been addressed. We could just play that show for you real quick, and you'll have a full understanding of why this is a giant nothing burger.
Right. No, absolutely. And I got to show this to you because this is what's going on with the mainstream media. They are absolutely in desperation and in panic. And this was Sean Hannity last night that posted this up. Just a montage of the media. And this all relates to Julian Assange, folks.
Our fellow far-left conspiracy sycophants at MSNBC, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, MSNBC, fake news CNN, also trashing the Attorney General. Gee, they didn't do that to Rod Rosenstein or Mueller. Take a look.
I spy an Attorney General giving credence to conspiracy theories. It feels like that basically the Attorney General gaslit the country.
Bill Barr, one of our nation's most respected lawyers, a two-time Attorney General, turn in his tortoiseshell glasses for a tinfoil hat.
Barr has made really clear, I'm going to be an engine for the President of the United States. I am not the Attorney General for the country.
The Attorney General of the United States in a dog whistle to Sean Hannity is a big deal.
He is a flunky.
For Donald Trump, he's not an independent thinker. He sounds good. He seems sincere. But if you look at what he does, not what he says, then you see the actions of a hatchet man here, and it's really disturbing.
Don't the scammers always do that? They always say, oh, you're a shill. That's what they're basically accusing him of right now.
Okay, so with all that happening, I'm trying to paint this whole picture real quick. All of this happening, all the running and the making names, and we got to find something else because, oh my goodness, Russia, and the collusion is over.
They're going back.
Right, it's all over with. What else do we do? How conveniently, and this is just my personal opinion, how conveniently that these Democrats or the deep state, I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm saying that Donald Trump had nothing to do with Julian Assange and the UK and getting him out of there. I'm saying Trump had nothing to do with it because Trump has nothing to gain by that.
Yeah.
There's no win there.
I don't even think you're going very far out on a limb there. I would say that, nothing to do with it.
Now, with that said, who would be doing that? It would have to be deep state players working with, because we know they worked with the QHGC, the Secret Service of the UK.
Okay.
We know the deep state's working with them, hand in hand.
I would be very cautious, and I'm talking to you, Mark Levin. I would be very cautious saying, well, you know what, we should be extraditing him and we should be indicting him because we don't agree and don't want journalists stealing top secret information from our own government. False premise, maybe? Yeah. You can't just take that at face value. You can't take anything that the deep state tells us at face value anymore.
Right, and F. Chuck Todd, this was an article put out by Breitbart News, NBC's F. Chuck Todd. Attorney General Barr, and he said it in that video, gave credence to a factless conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Gave credence to a factless conspiracy. So he's calling a factless conspiracy theory that Donald Trump's wires were tapped.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's been proven now.
No, it's a factless conspiracy theory according to F. Chuck Todd.
Well, that's what they called it when he first came out and said they tapped my wires. They tapped my wires. Everybody's like, how do you tap wires? And you could tell what they were doing. They knew that he was surveilled. They knew he was spied on. But in order to prevent from lying, this was back when fake news was just getting started and people were scared to come out with fake news. Journalists.
Right.
Journalists were scared to lie to you. So they had to figure out ways to get around telling the truth. And so instead of saying that he was not surveilled, they tried to attack the exact words, the semantics, and say, wires?
Who's tapping wires?
You ain't tapping no wires. What wires were tapped? Show me the physical wires.
Do you even have you talking about dial-up phones? We ain't got those no more.
Did somebody physically go into – I swear they made this exact argument. Somebody physically went into the walls and started wrenching on some wires in there. Come on. That didn't happen.
So the joke's on you because Donald Trump was right.
Yeah, well, I didn't doubt it for 1 second. Why would you just out of the blue, you become president? He just became president. He was brand spanking new. And all of a sudden he comes from behind the closed doors and say, damn it, they had my wires tapped.
Admiral,
you don't just come out of nowhere and say that.
Admiral, the unsung hero, Admiral Rogers, the head of the NSA, saw that spying was going on, saw that the databases were being breached, realized that this was wrong. Politics aside, he saw that this was wrong.
Right.
Briefed Trump in a skiff, set up a skiff in Trump Tower so that it was private. There's no tapping of wires in the meeting. And everybody hightailed out of there, and nobody went back to have a meeting.
I'm going to tell you right now, if George W. Bush's administration did that to Obama, I would be outraged.
I'd be calling for prison time for him, too.
I'd be livid. I would be livid. This has nothing to do with Trump, has nothing to do with Republican Party, conservatism. This is America. This is the United States of America. This is our government. This is our laws. This is the Constitution. It's all down out the window now. That there's just no law anymore. We're just in this lawless country. Banana Republic. It's all corrupt. and nobody's getting punished for it yet, but it looks like it might be starting to happen now, and that is the good news. Speaking of justice being served, I know we're just about out of time, so I wanted to leave you guys on this. Avanti. Avenatti.
Hammered.
Going to prison for 300 years, or at least that's what he's being charged with.
Up to 335 years.
Yeah, and check this out. I was like, all right, they're just scaring him with a lot of prison time. What is this? He stole $4 million from a client on a settlement from a mentally ill paraplegic. Dude, this guy is the most evil. Oh, there's a hot place in hell.
Now the feds also confiscated his $2.5 million aircraft all in one day.
Well, they said that the aircraft was purchased with the stolen money from the mentally ill paraplegic. I'm sorry. My goodness. Somebody wrote in Twitter that this is like cartoon villain type stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So for some good news, some good Trump news.
Oh, that was funny.
That was funny.
Not funny that he did that to the mentally ill paraplegic, but funny that
justice will be served.
Oh, Avenatti has it coming.
At Washington Times, President Trump signed 2 executive orders yesterday on Wednesday, aiming at making it easier for the oil and gas industry to build pipelines and other infrastructure. Trump said to continue the revival of the American energy industry. I want to keep it going. The strong U.S. economy. We've ended the war on energy like never before. We're going to get these approvals done quickly. You think that's huge? How about this one? Trump administration moves to stop dark regulations from federal agencies. Washington Times. Dark regulations?
Yeah, can you explain that one to me? Yeah, what is that?
Well,
the dark regulation. I mean, is that different than a regular regulation?
Yeah, they do regulations and then they sneak little rules on the back end on these regulations, and they tweak them and they twerk them, and they just start doing some really awful things that just really stifle the engine that is capitalism.
Right, of course.
And so Donald Trump with a 1-2 punch, ain't nobody can stop this man in 2020. I just don't see it being possible.
Yeah, it's going to be like Netanyahu. They're going to act like he's going to be defeated. They're going to act like his poll numbers are way down. They're going to act like his challenger is beating him, is leading. And then on election day, they're going to declare victory. And at the end, it'll be a landslide for Donald Trump after defeating whoever it might be in 3 back-to-back-to-back debates. It's a landslide. It's a landslide coming.
So my whole wrap-up synopsis, I personally believe that the Democrat Party, the deep staters, the one that hates Trump, did this to Julian Assange on purpose. Multiple paybacks for payback to Hillary Clinton to make Assange and WikiLeaks attack Donald Trump, which they are doing wholeheartedly, and to really stifle and get people fired up. This was just a move. Everybody's beside themselves. It's still trending on Twitter all day long.
Yeah, and also I think it might be a red herring to get your mind off of all this winning. Yesterday was one of the most winningest days of all time.
Biggest ever.
For the Trump movement, MAGA movement, people who are on the right in America in every way, shape, and form.
The worst day for Democrats.
Yeah, I feel like this came out because somebody's like, damn it, we need to regain the narrative.
Yes,
so,
yes. I agree. Folks, with that being said, follow us everywhere, all around the helm. You get us on Twitters, you get us on Facebooks and YouTube, at New Right Network, at Smith Radio, at Brian P. Smith. Share the show with your friends and families. If you've been blessed and God's blessed your family financially, jump over to smith.tv. Much obliged. Thank you so much to our Patreons. We've been able to have a brand new studio,
great
new equipment, and it just really is great to be able to give you this kind of information.
Thank you so much for all your support, and we will see you tomorrow.
All right, peace out.
See ya.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.